Welcome to Showboys, a podcast that delves into the world of film and TV. Hosts Nick and Mike take their water cooler talk from the office to the web as they discuss their favorite movies, shows, and all their content in between. In this week's episode, the boys reveal their favorite movies and why they love them so dearly. So, what's watching? Hello, Nick. How's it going?
Good. Mike, how are you?
Fantastic.
Fantastical.
Yes. Welcome to another episode of Showboys, your favorite podcast in which the hosts have no idea what they're talking about.
If there was an episode for that, it would be this episode.
Yes, and all of our other ones. Oh man. So, what's going on in the world of Nick? I'm sure, there's nothing really going on in society or anything that's crazy or whatnot, so I'm sure everything's just fine and dandy over there.
Everything's hunky effing dory. I went on the Netflix today by mistake. Shouldn't have done it. They added like 60 more titles. There's a lot of movies on there to watch. Really having a problem keeping up with everything. It's all too daunting at this point. I might just stop watching shows and TV altogether.
And this is the last episode of Showboys. Yeah. No, I feel you. And I keep also giving you suggestions of things to watch, so you're just on overload.
Yeah, did I suggest Barbarians to you?
I don't know who suggested it or how it came up, but I think we both had separately heard about it, and then both were going to tell each other about it.
Yeah, and I was gonna watch it, and then you're just like, "Oh, it's so good." I'm like, "God damn it!"
Yeah.
But to your delight, I have started watching The Boys. I'm 4 episodes in on season 1. I don't know how many episodes there are in each season, but
I want to say 8.
Okay, that's good progress then.
Yeah, halfway through, not bad.
Can I take a break at the end of season 1?
Can you take a break?
Yeah, watch something else.
I don't know if you'll want to.
Okay, if you say so.
That does make me happy that you're watching that, because that show's amazing.
Yeah, I just want to knock it off the list. I am enjoying it, but I do want to knock it off the list so I can move on with my life.
Okay, so before we get into our actual topic for tonight, what you want to tell me how exactly you're feeling about The Boys?
It is good. It definitely keeps your attention.
Some
wild shit
analysis right there.
It
is good.
While I don't want to give anything away, but very early on, like you had mentioned and Cody had mentioned, it does just do some really off the wall shit. That's pretty intense, and it keeps that intense level. I think every episode, there's always one or two things that's just geez, just keep upping the gore. It is gory. I think it's blood. It's not gory. It's just bloody. Just a lot of body explosions.
That show has zero chill.
That's a good way to describe it. There is no chill in that show at all.
Very fascinating and interesting take on what some might consider an already, kind of exhaustive genre of shows and movies. But
I mean, I feel like that's the more natural take on superheroes. I prefer that take on superheroes than every other take outside of like Iron Man and Batman. Other than that, that's basically how superheroes are. They are complete dick
not
wads.
yeah, not heroic really at all.
Yeah, they're just dick soups. They're sups, whatever they call them. And they're just terrible people, just like people are sometimes.
Isn't Butcher an amazing character?
Yeah, no, that's a sweet little crew they got there. Butcher, I like that actor a lot.
Carl Urban.
Is he related to Keith Urban?
I have no idea, but maybe, probably. I mean,
I feel like Carl is, I don't know, maybe 2 hobbies removed from being a country singer. He could really pull it off. I think he should play a country singer in a movie at some point and just see how he does.
Yes, he'll play Keith in Keith's biopic.
Yeah, the Keith Urban biopic played by Carl Urban, no relation at all. But no, he's really cool. He was a good character. I like how much room there is for the reluctant, I am still a good person, super person, in this world of just shitty ones. So
are you talking about maybe Starlight?
Yeah, Starlight, and so far right now, the man, Superman, Homelander, his woman, or
Maeve.
Yeah,
the Wonder Woman knockoff.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
and I feel like even at times, douche nut, the Deep, like, he's just like an awful person, and then they are starting to slowly be like, is he just kind of just fucked up from this fucked up situation world?
Yeah.
So no, I think it just makes for a lot better character.
Yeah.
Around those things. It's just I don't think that's really been done. It's good, really good take on things.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to you finishing, and then maybe, I don't know, depending on what you think and maybe what our listeners think, if they would enjoy a Mando type series on The Boys, or if we just do like one big episode where we just go in deep. Maybe have Jordan back on, and since he's like a giant, superhero comic nerd.
I think he would add a good spin to it from having a real deep this comic superhero perspective on it. Yeah. And then this is, basically the anti all that.
Yeah.
And the fact,
so it's I believe a Vertigo comic that the show is based off of, and I believe Vertigo is part of DC, so basically they're just straight up making fun of DC superheroes.
That's the other thing, and this kind of builds on the like no chill of it. It places them and their superhero-ness in the real world, so real world shit kind of happens when you have superheroes in them. So, the one that runs really fast, things like that are bound to happen, or
yeah.
or laser eyes, because those are super accurate. I just feel like there's a lot of, they have more realistic impact on their environments in this show.
Yeah, and you actually see the collateral damage, unlike, say, for instance, Man of Steel, where they just literally destroy Metropolis. And there's no consequences really that you see, except the cool fight scene between, Superman and whoever. I forget.
That fight's so good. I love that.
There's so much destruction.
So much, but
so many people died. Like, we can't hide that. So many people died.
That's a Dragon Ball Z fan of me because I watched that and I was just like, oh, this is basically live action Dragon Ball Z because they're just like throwing each other through buildings,
Yeah.
with no consequence, which is great.
So actually, somehow we managed to make a transition into tonight's topic.
We always do.
Yeah, I don't know. It's magical.
Podcasts find a way.
Yeah. But yeah, so tonight we decided we haven't really talked much about movies so far in our short life as a podcast. So we decided to have an episode here where we just talk about our 3 favorite movies.
Boys presents movies.
Showboys at the movies.
There you go.
Yeah, I don't know. That would actually be really fun, except
now you're cooking.
rip movie theaters.
Yeah.
So I had kind of a difficult time narrowing down my top 3. So as of now, when I'm looking at my list, I actually have 5. But as we get, going in our discussion, I will narrow it down to just 3, and then I have, a handful of honorable mentions. And
hey, I plan to do the exact same thing. I have a list of I have a list of 8 because I was just like, there's no way I can just I'll sort it as we go.
Yeah, exactly. And we haven't seen each other's lists as usual. We don't really discuss our episode topics, with each other prior to coming on and recording, with the exception of what the heck are we going to talk about. But yeah, I also tried with my list to not pick like the obvious movies, like, your Lord of the Rings or like your Inceptions or, insert like super amazing, critically acclaimed, massively popular movie.
Whoops.
I mean, hey, you can do your list however you want. It's your list.
Yeah, no.
But with that being said, I mean, I didn't pick like super obscure movies either. I'm sure that, well, just looking at my list now, there's at least, 4 or 5 between my top 3 and my honorable mentions that I'm sure you've heard of. I mean, obviously you've heard of, but like, the general listener. But I don't know, how did you go about picking yours?
Well, I currently have an issue with my list. And this issue was from the very start. So they are kind of big ones, but I think they aren't necessarily big enough to be kind of, the top 100. Maybe a couple of these fall in like a top 100, but I just feel like in the back of my brain somewhere there is this list of movies that are kind of a little bit off the cuff, kind of less known, but they are just really good. And I almost wanted to go that direction, but I just for the life of me cannot think of them.
Yeah.
And I really have not really watched movies in a long time.
Yes, it has been, I mean, with the exception of last Friday. So Friday nights, my wife and I have like an in-home date night just because getting a babysitter is a hassle.
Mm-hmm.
And for the first time, usually we'll like go get takeout, or I'll go get takeout, bring it home after the girls are in bed. And then we'll eat some food and then like throw on a show, watch, a couple episodes. Last week we decided to watch a movie because Becca is currently obsessed with Post Malone. I don't know if you got that from her Instagram.
Lightly.
A couple weeks.
I encourage it though.
Yeah, hey, it's fine. Maybe he'll notice her, and then we'll get famous somehow, and then I don't have to work anymore, and I could just podcast forever.
Yes, that is the plan.
Yeah. So, anyways, with her Post Malone obsession, he was in a movie with Mark Wahlberg. I believe it was from earlier this year, maybe tail end of 2019. Netflix movie Spencer Confidential.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it was all right. Much to her disappointment, he was in it for like maybe 2 minutes screen time total.
Did she think he was like co-starring along
I don't
Mark
know.
Wahlberg?
I don't know because I was like,
She just wanted to, she thought she was gonna see Marky Mark and Post Malone just like ham it
yeah,
up for 2
exactly.
hours.
Yeah,
Wrong.
he was in the opening scene that was about like 2 minutes, maybe 3 minutes, and then like in it again in like a very brief like 20-second scene. I
And
mean, it was
those are the movies I've seen though this year are the Netflix originals. That there's like the one about the four ex-military guys and they go on that mission to get some money down in like South America.
I know what movie you're talking about. I can't.
Yeah.
The name escapes me.
Yeah, and then there's like the old ones with the one chick from, isn't she from, I'll have to look it up. It's not on my list, so I'm really kind of thinking in the deep cuts. But it's kudos to Netflix because they've really kind of just captured the movies for me this year, and I think it's just I've been a Netflix kick.
So before I finish my story, you had me thinking about some decent Netflix original movies. There's one that we watched last year, and I guess it came out. I'm looking here in January of 2019, so I must have watched it, in the first half of 2019. A movie called Polar, and it has Mads Mikkelsen, Vanessa Hudgens, and some other people, and I don't know I think it's based off of a graphic novel. I mean, what movie isn't these days? But it's very like comic-y slash graphic novel-y in its presentation, if that makes sense. But it was really good, and it's like, I don't think it's a very popular movie. So if you're looking for an interesting graphic novel type movie, I would add that to your list, though I don't know if you want to add stuff to your list at this point.
No, and I was considering today, I'm like, should I just stop and just start at the beginning and just grind through this whole list until it's just empty?
Yeah.
It would take so long and I would miss
No.
out on so much.
no more Civ. Just Netflix.
Well, I was almost thinking, I was like, imagine. Well, no, I don't want to imagine it. Never mind.
Man. But anyways, back to Spencer Confidential.
Yeah.
I mean, you said you saw it, you watched it.
Yes.
It wasn't terrible, but I don't think it was great by any means. I mean, your typical Mark Wahlberg cop movie type deal, very predictable.
Yeah, that was a watch. That was so Netflix movies fall into two categories. I either watch them or I stop after like 15 minutes. Spencer Confidential, I finished. The Old Guard, that's what I was trying to think of. That's good.
Yeah.
Extraction was the one I was talking about. So those
guy, yeah.
Those three I finished, and then there's Six Underground with our boy. What's his name? Ryan Reynolds.
Yes.
Produced by Michael Bay. All but like I made it like 10 minutes into that. It was just big doo doo.
Yeah, not surprised. I mean, again, we're getting a little. I think it's safe to say Spencer Confidential was not on your list. It was not on mine. It is not a part of my top 3 movies, but
right.
It kind of had a pretty sweet cast, though. I mean, you got Mark Wahlberg, then you got oh shoot, I need to pull it up. Confidential. Winston Duke, who's from Black Panther. He played the leader of the tribe that was not a fan of Black Panther. He was also in Us, Jordan Peele movie. Then you have the bad guy in that movie is the guy who plays Mike Flanagan from season 3 or season 2 of Fargo. Great actor, love that guy. He does kind of play the same person in like everything he's in, though. He's always the bad guy.
Yeah, so's Mark.
Yeah. Anyways,
Anyway,
so I feel like I don't think we're gonna hit our target
yeah, we are.
episode length.
Yeah, we are. We're about to smash through this.
All right, so yeah, what you want to go first? You want to? I mean, I don't think we have to go, and I don't have mine in any particular. Like, this is my number one favorite, number two, number three.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, I'll go first. Painfully enough. If you haven't seen Prometheus, I really recommend Prometheus. Have you seen it?
Yes, I almost put it on my honorable mentions.
Nice. So you can take that off your mention, and I'll just talk about it briefly. I like it because it has Michael Fassbender in it. It's sci-fi. I like shit where they go to different planets, and it's kind of like a mystery horror too. And I don't want to overly give things away unless we're going to do a spoiler alert, and I can just freely talk about the whole thing.
We could, I guess. I mean, it's not like a new movie.
Yeah, true. It's not. So I mean, spoiler alert, it's a prequel to the Alien movies. And it has that element of just kind of like scary space stuff. Idris Elba's in it too, a little offshoot. That was before I think he started getting really famous, because this came out in 2012. I feel like he's kind of really started to get more mainstream famous in the past like 5 years. I really like it just because Ridley Scott makes. I like Ridley Scott movies for the most part. I'm not the kind of person that I think there's like a diehard like Ridley Scott fan base. I wouldn't put myself in it, but just from like passing mention, I'm pretty sure I like his movies.
Yeah. No, I thought Prometheus was really good and really entertaining, and has some really cool like allegorical stuff.
Yes.
I don't know if that's like the proper use of that word, or if I just like made up a new one.
Yeah.
But I really, really enjoyed like kind of the deeper meaning of all the stuff that was happening. Now
if a movie does that, that's usually when I really kind of grip to it, when they touch on very large themes like that.
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
I was going to say that I think it's come up on the pod that I've never really watched the Alien movies, but this one made me really want to. I never followed through, but I still want to watch the Alien movies. And yeah, it wasn't. Well, I guess I have seen another Alien movie, Alien Covenant. Was that the name of that? It came out after Prometheus.
Yeah, so that was the sequel to Prometheus.
Right. So besides those two, I haven't seen any of the other ones. But I do know that this Prometheus kind of caught a lot of flack from like the alien crew, you know?
Yeah.
So I guess my question would be, have you seen the Alien and Aliens movies, and what made you want to put this one on your list despite the backlash that it kind of received?
Yeah, so I've seen the Aliens, but it was more so I saw them as an adolescent, and it never was really, a movie series that I was like, oh, I want to rewatch it.
Right.
But they're very cool. And then, I remember my one friend, like we watched Alien vs Predator, and a lot of those were either good or bad, especially in the 2000s, because they had a hard time. It was a weird time when it came to like sci-fi in the 2000s. I felt like some of these movies, they veered on the side of more like cheaper like horror movies kind of feeling to them.
Right.
And the reason, I mean, Prometheus, like the core Alien fans, is because really Prometheus is not that tempo of a movie. way more building and way larger on the philosophical level.
Mhm.
And maybe the last act of Prometheus is the most like the Alien movies once the actual alien comes into play and it's hunting people down.
Right.
So I would say that's probably like the big distinction. Um, just it just has a different feel to it for sure, and it's definitely like modern, more updated because the old ones were in the 80s, so they had a
Yeah.
much more kind of like a Star Wars feel to it because it was like a very like used space type setting. It
Right.
wasn't like big shiny ships and all this fancy stuff. It was really kind of practical.
Yeah. Um what did you think of Alien Covenant?
I saw it and I did not like it as much as Prometheus, and I think I need to give it another watch because I really don't remember much of it. Though
Yeah.
it's starting to trickle back into my mind a little bit right now.
Yeah, really, I mean all I remember is Fassbender is in it also.
Yeah, but
um
it's like it's a different Fastbender. It's not because he's in there. He's in it twice because he finds himself
right.
because he's a cyborg or whatever, an
Right.
android.
Yeah, I would say I kind of feel the same. That Covenant felt kind of unremarkable and kind of forgettable, obviously, because neither of us really remember too much from it.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I would say that's a pretty good pick. I enjoyed Prometheus, and I thought about adding it to my honorable mentions.
And funny enough that I mentioned Alien vs Predator. James Cameron developed the idea for Prometheus, but in 2002 the development of Alien vs Predator took precedence. So I can't say that was a bad thing because I feel like the waiting on Prometheus was better
Yeah,
for that style of movie because I feel if they would have tried to do like a world building fancy sci-fi flick as it is in 2002, eh,
yeah,
that probably wouldn't have went so well.
right. I kind of want to rewatch Prometheus. I
Yeah,
enjoyed that one.
yeah, it's I enjoy it, and especially because it hits on just very very large topics.
Yeah,
Because it really touches on the whole question of God itself, right?
right. Yeah, that's kind of the big allegory thing that I loved the most about it is like I don't know. There's so much to unpack just there.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So we could almost do just an entire episode breaking down Prometheus if we rewatched it, probably.
Yeah, and like just at a glancing for those who haven't seen it and just kind of want a spoiler, but the overarching theme there is the main characters, they're seeking their what they think is their creators, and you find your creators and they just happen to be just some normal, while advanced alien species. You were just created for the sake of nothing. um and but that still that search and that wonder is still there at the same time in us. So I think that's like the most gripping part of that.
Yeah.
When you find your creators at surface level, it's like, oh, we were really just kind of science experiments and there really is no point. But I think in that somehow there's still a larger purpose, which is interesting. But yeah, and they touch on that in the world building, which I really liked a lot. They never actually said that kind of stuff.
Right.
It was presented to you in the world building.
Right. Yeah, it's very easy to pick that up. Like it's not some like hidden deep down like subliminal like type theme they're trying to pull off. It's just very much out in the open without actually literally saying, "Hey, this is what we're doing."
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so I think that's a good pick. Um, I guess I'll stick with the uh, movies that received quite a bit of backlash theme with my pick. which I don't know, this may or may not be on your list. But Batman versus Superman.
It is not on my list.
It isn't? Okay.
No, sir.
I'm actually kind of not surprised, but also kind of a little surprised because I know we talked about it a ton back like when it came out and we saw it and whatnot. But yeah, this I think general consensus is like this is the worst movie ever. Maybe.
But in our discussions, that consensus is misplaced. By large margins.
Yes. But it's like of recent times probably one of, if not my favorite superhero movie that's been done. I would say even over the Dark Knight trilogy.
Damn.
Just because, I mean, it's hard to compare the Dark Knight trilogy versus like the new DCEU stuff. Because the Dark Knight trilogy tried to be very rooted and grounded in reality, whereas the DCEU is very much okay with being a comic movie, you know? Like, they're not afraid of superpowers, right? Because you got Superman, you got the Flash, you got all that stuff.
Right.
Whereas, like, the Dark Knight trilogy, I mean, like, the Joker doesn't have any, like, powers per se, but, like, Bane, basically just being, like, a terrorist on steroids. Whereas, like, some of the comic versions of Bane, there's more, like, other stuff to it.
Yeah, I guess the Dark Knight, I guess in my mind, it's less realistic. It's not so much realistic. It's more so like a graphic novel, thinking back on it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's not realistic, but like in terms of superhero movies, it's like the most realistic. Because I mean, obviously you have a character in Batman that doesn't have powers. So like making a quote unquote realistic hero movie with Batman is totally doable because he's just like a rich dude who buys a lot of like techie gadgets, right? It's not like he can shoot lasers out of his eyes and fly around. And he has notable villains who are also not really super powered like the Joker, you know? He's just villains. Like a lunatic, right? Just but he doesn't have like superpowers per se. But anyways, Batman vs Superman very much, you know, kind of accepts that it's a comic movie and doesn't shy away from that. And I think the reason that I liked it so much is it's very much rooted in its inspiration by the comic series Batman: The Dark Knight Returns, which was, you know, back in 1986, written by Frank Miller, who is a great writer of graphic novels and comics. You'll hear his name pop up more and more in my list here, or my honorable mentions, I should say. But basically, the Dark Knight Returns comic, you see it's an older Batman, like old, like probably sick, like he's in his 60s, I would want to say, somewhere around there. Like he's old, and he had not been Batman for quite some time. Now it's been a while since I've read this, so like the comic fans might lynch me or something if I get like specific details wrong. But basically the main gist is like Batman took some time off. He's old. He kind of like was like got to the point where he's like, what's the point? Like, no matter what I do, like there's always still crime going on. Like Gotham sucks. Like I'm not making a difference. So he kind of like hangs it up and then like comes back and then there's a beef with Superman. That's like the short story. But the movie kind of follows the source material pretty well for a comic movie, I would say. And just the fact that it was such a different take on the cinematic Batman that we're used to seeing, because they play into that cynical version of Batman. right? He's kind of fed up. You see a lot more brutality and a lot more like kind of like a grim, darker version of Batman in Ben Affleck, because at that point, like in that Batman storyline, like he just kind of is over it and like fed up with kind of not really making a difference, you know?
Right. And who they have play Lex Luger in that?
Lex Luthor was Jesse Eisenberg.
Yes, I thought that was a really good pick.
Yeah, most people hated it, but I mean, so I think the backlash from this movie comes from a few different places. First off, it's not a Marvel movie, which would be number one.
Womp womp womp.
Not only is it not a Marvel movie, but it doesn't follow the Marvel movie template of bright, funny, and like
It's mildly grim in like the second, the third act, and then it's all better.
Yeah, I mean, like DC as a whole is just kind of a darker universe. Like they're like, especially Batman. Like Batman is like a serious, like gritty, kind of almost bleak character and like world. So I don't know, and it's like people were so used to the decade of Marvel movies that we've had before Batman vs Superman that I would assume that they assumed that it was just going to be like lighthearted, whimsical Batman comes in and like gets mad at cool guy Superman, and then they like bro out, and then everything's good.
They want it to be like Civil War.
Yeah, but like it's not. It's like dark and gritty and like brutal, and
that's the one that had a lot of. It had that like flash to the future, where Batman, it was just like super desolate, dusty. Am I thinking the right thing? Is that in that one? Yeah.
Yeah.
I just liked it because one, I like the editing style of that, because it's like flipping between pages, because it is kind of as they address scene to scene. It's a little bit more dramatic like that.
Yeah. I'm like, I just kind of like Zack Snyder movies in general, which also is apparently a hot take these days. Like nobody likes Zack Snyder movies, but I actually do like them. Most of the time, visually, they're always like very appealing and have like cool aesthetics and stuff. But yeah, like some of the fight scenes in this movie are super cool. I like the bat suit. I actually like Ben Affleck as Batman. I thought he was a good portrayal of this version of Batman. Batman had cool suits, like the one that he fights Superman in is really awesome. I liked the Superman tie-in, obviously, and the showdown in the Frank Miller comics was super epic, and I felt like up until like, I mean, this movie's one of my favorite movies, but I still have a few gripes with it. One of which being the whole like Martha scene, like that was little kind of just get that out of here, and this movie would have probably been perfect in my eyes. But like up until that whole wait, your mom's name's Martha too, and then we're gonna bro out. Up until that part, like that whole Batman versus Superman fight was so awesome. But yeah, I love this movie and feel like people really kind of went into it with the wrong expectations. Largely like, oop, I gotta quit hitting my microphone.
With your hands.
I know. I'm always flailing around here. But I think it's just a thing that the DC movies kind of struggle with as a whole, kind of is fan perception of what they should be. Like I feel like they never get a fair shot because it's not a Marvel movie. And they approach their universe in a completely like 180-degree way than Marvel did.
Doesn't it start off with Man of Steel?
Yeah.
Essentially, yeah. That is when essentially right from the beginning they had me because I was like, I love Man of Steel. They're starting me off in a pre-existing movie that I've already seen, and I love shit like that.
So, like their attempt was kind of reverse, where they started with their team up and like joined movies before the solo films, which like I could understand where people who aren't like don't know who some of the DC heroes are would be like, what the heck? But it's literally Batman and Superman. Like, even if you're not a fan of comics, you know who Batman is, you know who Superman is, right?
Yeah.
Like, why do you need solo movies explaining Batman and Superman before you have a Batman versus Superman movie? But yeah, that's kind of my whole rant on it. Actually, I could go on for like 4 hours on this topic, but
yeah, maybe once again, maybe that's another topic we need to
yeah,
bust out.
So one thing I wanted to say about how I picked my list is the movies that made it are how I kind of determine what a favorite movie of mine is a movie that I'm able to rewatch and have rewatched multiple times. So
Yes.
pretty much all the movies on my list, even most of the honorable mentions, I've seen multiple times.
I would say the same is for me.
Yeah,
for sure.
I just feel like that's kind of like what makes it a great movie in your opinion, right? If you're able to rewatch it, like Batman vs Superman, I saw in theaters at least twice in theaters, and then like bought the DVD and have watched it at least twice on DVD. Which 4 times total doesn't really sound like a lot, but like
right
for that type of movie, I feel like that kind of is a lot. But anyways,
good
so
pick,
yeah,
I agree with that pick.
Thanks. So what do you got for your next?
All right, my next one might lead me. It might be thematic. Well, no, I lie. I'm lying. Anyways, my next one is a 2015 film called Legend, starring Tom Hardy. Have you ever heard of it? Seen it?
I think I've heard of Tom Hardy. That's a joke.
But
Legend. No, I have not seen this movie.
Streaming on Netflix right now. I would suggest go watching it. So it is a British-French film, and it is about the Kray brothers, who were these English gangsters, and actually is where the kind of like the term that shit Kray comes from, because they are the Kray brothers. But Tom Hardy plays both of the brothers, and he does a very good job playing these two distinct characters simultaneously. So movies that one are set up like that are always interesting, and I like Tom Hardy, and I like kind of like gangster mobster movies, and then it's in England. It just has a lot of cool dynamics to it that I like. It's got, forget who his girlfriend, Emily Browning. She's been in stuff. Nothing I can like readily name, but like if you saw her, I'm pretty sure you would probably be able to pick her out.
Yeah.
But
I'm looking here, and I never know how to say this guy's name. David Thewlis. Thewlis.
Thewlis.
Yeah, I love that guy. He keeps popping up in like minor roles in all these shows I've been watching. He's a really good actor.
Isn't he in Harry Potter? He's
probably.
He's the frick. He's the Prisoner of Azkaban. That one. He's the werewolf.
Oh, so
Remus. Remus Lupin.
That's it. Yep.
Remus. Yes, sir.
That makes sense. No wonder he looks so familiar.
Yeah.
He's in Fargo and plays like an absolutely off the wall character in that show, and that show Barkskins that I talked about last week. But yeah, great actor.
Yeah, he pops up in all kinds of stuff, and he's just a great supporting actor. in things.
But anyways, back to Legend.
No, yeah, this is a great movie. It starts off with like kind of them being younger as brothers, growing up ish. It kind of jumps around a little bit, but you know, Tom Hardy has the one brother. He's got like the head on his shoulders. He's got the swag. He's just a gangster. He doesn't take no shit, right? Then there's his brother, who is his twin brother. He's schizophrenic. He's bipolar. The dude is just a loose cannon. He's just like every sexual there is. I'm pretty sure he's just a homosexual, but I don't know. He's all over the place in this movie, and partly it plays into his like mental disorder too. But he is just a wild character. So them both in scenes is just so good. And it just kind of digs in a little bit to like kind of the dynamics of like street gangsters in England. I forget what kind of part of England they're in. Definitely a part of London. But it's just a well done movie, and it covers maybe two people that some people might have heard in passing, like the Cray brothers. But they're
they're actually, like real people?
Yeah, these are real, based on real people.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I love Tom Hardy too. Like,
yeah. And and when he did a role like this, I just thought that was super interesting because it's basically you get to see Tom Hardy twice.
Yeah, and like two completely different kind of characters too. Sounds like.
Yep. Yeah.
I'll definitely have to add that to my list for sure.
Yeah, 50s and 60s London. So it's a little bit of a period piece.
Yeah.
Nice. So I definitely recommend it. And I've seen it multiple times. It's a little bit more structured or low key than kind of like an American gangster movie, because American gangster movies have like a very, very specific feel, right? And this, usually the London, the European ones have a little bit different of a feel too, just because they had a different style about them, a different presence. And I think you pick up on some of that, in a show like, it's on my watch list.
Peaky Blinders.
Peaky Blinders, yeah.
Yeah.
Just like that kind of style. And plus I like Irish English films too and shows, just because like the accents are fun and it's just a whole different atmosphere sometimes.
Yeah, I haven't really seen a Tom Hardy movie that I haven't enjoyed.
Very true.
So by the sounds of this, I mean, you got gangster movie, which is cool.
Got it's like an hour and a half too.
A period piece, which is also cool, and then you got Tom Hardy, which is like super cool.
Yeah. Sorry, 2 hours, but it's a good watch.
Nice. Yeah.
Big recommend.
Excuse me. Sweet. So, oh man, I guess I'll just go with my next, like, for sure movie, since I haven't thought about the three I need to decide between yet. But this one probably is my favorite movie, like number one favorite movie. You got any guesses of what it might be?
Is it? Go ahead and say it. I'm drawing a blank.
Jeez. Thought we were friends, man.
We were.
Thought we were friends. Scott Pilgrim vs. the World.
Yep, there it is.
Number one. I don't know if it'll ever be topped.
Shouldn't we save this for like one of the 2-hour episodes so you can talk about it for 2 hours?
I don't know. Have you actually watched the movie?
No, I need to. It's on my watch list.
All right. Well, maybe we'll do like, maybe once you watch it, I'll watch it again for like the 300th time, and then we can like break it down. But
tell me why it is your favorite movie.
Why? Man, lots of reasons. First, Edgar Wright. Love Edgar Wright. I think he's like a brilliant director and producer. So he kind of helmed this one. This was back in 2010. The movie's based off of a series of graphic novels written by a guy named Brian Lee O'Malley.
Edgar Wright, Keanu Reeves is like brother.
It could be. I mean, they look like they could be related.
Yeah, cousin for sure.
Yeah. But the graphic novel series ran from 2004 to 2010. But to answer your question about why this is my favorite movie, probably because this is the most comic book movie that I think I've ever seen. Like, literally, the way it's presented, the way scene transitions work, it's literally like watching a comic book page turn, or like it's like reading from one panel to the next on a page. And I don't really know how else to describe it other than kind of that way. Just the way the transitions work is beautiful. And it's got a very big a heavy influence of like old retro games and stuff. So it's like games and comics, like how, and music, like my three of my favorite things to do.
Here he did Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz.
Yep.
Oh, very nice.
He's done a lot of sweet movies.
Those are actually the two movies before this one that he directed.
Yeah. Yep.
Nice.
It stars Michael Cera, who's one of my favorite like comedic actors. Has a really great like supporting cast. Chris Evans is randomly in it. Kieran Culkin is in it. He's great. Mary Elizabeth Winstead. There's just all of the side characters are like hysterical. It's very funny. It's super visually like appealing. It has some really cool music in it, and it's just like a super interesting take on a love story. So yeah, if you plan on watching it, I don't want to like go into too much detail,
right?
Because I think one of the reasons that I actually enjoyed this movie so much is I think it was one of the movies that Becca and I went and saw at the Dollar Theater without like any idea of what it was. We were just like, "Oh, cool, Michael Cera, let's go watch this movie." And then like I got to watch this in theater, and I was just like, "Oh my god, this is the best movie ever!" It's like
nice.
It's definitely one where like if it were ever to come back into theaters for whatever reason, you know, sometimes they do like special like events or whatever. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I would totally go watch it, and I would like come kidnap you from your house and make you go and see it in theater, just because like, you know, on that size screen with the surround sound and seeing it the way it was intended to be watched, that's one that's like kind of, it loses a little bit watching it at home, if that makes sense.
Well, the tagline is an epic of epicness.
Yeah, it's pretty great. Yeah, that definitely is my favorite movie of all time, and I don't want to like go into too much details because I would like anyone who hasn't watched it to kind of just experience it without any story being told or ruined.
So shall I just wait till it comes out in theater somewhere to watch it?
No, because then you'll never watch it. You'll never get a chance.
Hey, side note, Michael Cera on Wikipedia here, it says musical career, right?
Mm-hmm.
And under genres, it lists indie, folk, and lo-fi. Did you know this?
Yeah, he's actually played bass in, I don't remember what the band's name is, but he actually plays bass.
Okay.
At least that's all of the musical like extent of Michael Cera's musical career that I know is like he is a bassist and was in a band, which is not much knowledge, but I was aware of that at least a little bit. Oh man. But yeah, that's actually another cool thing about this movie is like all the musical stuff was actually done by the actors and actresses, which was kind of cool.
Nice.
But yeah, so that's like my all-time favorite movie. I don't know. It'd have to be a pretty gnarly movie to kind of dethrone that one.
Yeah, I agree. You bring it up quite frequently, and it for sure is your favorite movie.
Yeah, I think at one time I know I definitely made Mallory watch it from work, but I think like I passed it around to several people at the office.
Like the actual physical movie.
Yes.
That's so funny.
Yeah. Like I was like I was like a Jehovah's Witness for Scott
Yeah.
Pilgrim.
Watch this movie, please, and give it back
Yeah.
so I can give it to someone else, or just pass it around.
Mm. Yeah,
Oh
man. So
boy,
anytime you want to watch it, come over, dude. I have it.
it's on Netflix.
True. So what's your next one?
My
Oh,
final
is
one.
this number 3? This is it
Yeah,
for you?
yeah, and man, I'm in a pickle right now because I pulled up the Wikipedia page just for like quick reference on things, and damn it, the main actor, they always kind of list other things they're known for.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like almost trying to switch into one of those movies, but I don't know if it's just like redundant. Oh my god, this is difficult. Am I
Well,
gonna?
what are you trying to decide between?
No, I just have to pick one.
All right, pick it.
All right, no, this is true. This is one of the movies that was like in the back of my mind where I'm like, this is what I'm looking for. So I'll go with this, and I mean it's pretty well known, I think, amongst kind of like the gangster type movies. I'm just gonna go with it. Directed by Martin Scorsese, The Departed.
Okay, I've not seen it, but I am aware
Good.
of it.
You must watch it. Why? Why? Because it has Leonardo DiCaprio, Matt Damon, Jack Nicholson, Mark Wahlberg, Martin Sheen, and then a bunch of other people. Alec Baldwin. Um, Basically just pulls out the entire, Hollywood right there.
Right.
And if it takes place in Boston, right? So Mark Wahlberg's there, and it's in Boston. So we know he plays a really good role, and I would say it's probably like it actually more honed focused version of Mark Wahlberg in Boston than his like usual thing, because it is not a comedy. But follows the story of an Irish mob boss known as Frank Costello, and that's played by Jack Nicholson. And essentially, he just runs like the mob, and Matt Damon is a cop, and then so is Leonardo DiCaprio. But one of them goes in undercover as a criminal to take down Frank Costello. Meanwhile, the other one is a person Frank Costello brought up and inserted into the police department to kind of help him control the police department. So it's really a story of just rats and snitches and just this entanglement of a web,
Do they get
right?
stitches?
Yeah, actually, I think DiCaprio gets stitches in the movie. He gets his hand busted up really good,
Nice.
by Jack Nicholson. But good movie, very strong language.
I'm sensing a trend though with you. Big fan of the gangster flicks.
Yeah. The one that led me here wasn't a gangster flick per se, but
What
a lot
was
of the
the one
same.
that brought you to this point?
The
Like
Wolf of Wall Street.
Wolf of Wall Street. Okay.
Yeah, basically, the more swear words there are, the better the movie is. But it's the artistic use of the swear words.
Yeah.
And that's something that the Departed does exceptionally well, because they are creative with their swearing, particularly Jack Nicholson.
Nice.
So it's just it's a great movie. It's kind of it's Martin Scorsese, so it's much so an epic,
Right.
with just all the actors in play, and it's just intense.
Yeah, I need to watch both of those movies actually, Wolf of Wall Street and The Departed, and also The Irishman. I need to watch too.
Yeah, that truly is an epic because it is like 4 hours long.
Yeah.
And that we can throw that an honorable mention for me just because it kind of closes out Martin Scorsese's legacy.
Right. And
With
that
the
was a Netflix original, right?
Oh
The
man.
Irishman?
Yeah. It very much may have been.
Let me look it up while you tell me before I interrupted you.
What was I saying? Anyway. Look it up already.
I'm working on it.
Okay, fine.
The Irishman. I'm trying to see. I'm pretty sure it was a Netflix original.
I'd believe it. Yeah, because they wouldn't play a 4-hour movie at the movie theaters.
This is insane. Like, I can't find anywhere where it says Netflix original. But
may not have been.
Oh no! Right here on the card, it says Netflix.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So I won't ask you what other movies you were trying to decide between because you can just throw those in the honorable mention section. So because that's what I plan on doing with the two I don't pick. So as we were talking, or as you were talking, and after talking about Scott Pilgrim, I kind of made up my mind and chose Superbad as my third movie. This was a great 2007 comedy from the minds of Evan Goldberg and Seth Rogen, starring Jonah Hill and Michael Cera. And
damn it.
What's the guy's name that plays McLovin? That guy. But I mean, I'm assuming you've seen Superbad.
Yes.
Okay. Besides Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, this is probably my second most watched movies, like number of views. I think at one point, like after this movie came out, I was probably able to like recite the entire movie, like script back at you. Like
I feel like there's a lot of people. I feel like
God, this was like one of the funniest movies that I saw in my like post high school life.
But I think it marked a change in the direction that the comedy movies were headed. Because this was kind of like not this was the like movie for it, but this was a big take on it in the late 2000s where this different sort of comedy started taking hold.
Like, what do you mean?
You know, a lot of the stuff kind of done by like Seth Rogen and that little ethos of people. I just feel like they did a little bit different version of some kind of older tropes, but kind of updated them, if that makes sense. Because even Pineapple Express, like things like that, like they just hit a lot of like very key and well-known, very popular movies amongst their crowds.
Yeah.
In that period where there might have been like a lull for a decade there. And maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, but I just feel like these were kind of like landmark points for just their art.
And I want to say that like Superbad kind of kicked off like Rogen's like comedic career. Because you're right, there's like an avalanche of like Rogen and his crew movies after this.
Yeah, and it made them all famous.
Yeah, if I hit my microphone stand one more time, I'm gonna rip it off my desk. But interestingly enough, oh my gosh, I cannot think of the show name. But Seth Rogen was actually in a show like I want to say early to late sometime in the 90s. Oh my gosh, what is it called? It only aired for one season and kind of got canceled, but it has a lot of the people in kind of in that crew in this show. Freaks and Geeks, that's what it is. Freaks and Geeks. James Franco is in it. Seth Rogen is in it. Let me pull it up here. 1999 is when it aired. Yeah, we got James Franco, Seth Rogen, Jason Segel, and like a handful of other people. It's actually a really cool show. But like Superbad, like you're saying, kind of like changed the comedic game for that style of movie. And there is just something with the chemistry of Jonah Hill and Michael Cera in that movie that was just so right. Funny. Like they're so funny in that movie. And man, it's just that might be one of the funniest movies that I've probably ever seen.
Yeah, and just when you started listing out who was in this movie before you said it, I started thinking of like other movies instantly because it is that crew.
Yeah, it's kind of almost like, you know how Adam Sandler has like that group of people that are in all of his movies? Well, that's like kind of the Rogen crew. They're kind of always all in each other's movies and stuff.
All right, and there's the parallel I might have been looking for. So, you know, if Sandler has his crew and all of them, you know, this was maybe the next crew after that.
Yeah, for sure. But there's just so many memorable like funny things from this movie. I mean, you got the lunchbox art from Jonah Hill's character. You got, you know, the classic trope of high school guys trying to hook up with, you know, their high school crushes at a party, and it's just just a hysterical like take on that. If for some reason you have not seen Superbad, and you know, in the 13 years that it's been out, I definitely highly recommend this as like a hilarious, you know, funny movie to watch.
Yeah, I mean, I'll toss Pineapple Express as an honorable mention. That's another one that I've seen way too many times and is just a classic to me.
Yeah, it's a good one. I mean, there's a lot of Rogen crew films in that era right there that are just really funny. So I guess the other two movies I was trying to decide between, so as we kind of break out into our honorable mention section, was The Princess Bride. Is like one of my favorite movies. Have you ever seen?
I want to say yes, but I also want to say no.
I mean, it's an old one, 1987. Such a classic. Like, so much so that I recently bought it on Blu-ray.
No, looking at the pictures of it, I have not seen this.
So the male lead in this movie, what's his name? Cary Ells or whatever. I mean, I am sucking at pronouncing people's last names, but maybe don't spell them so weirdly and I'll be able to pronounce them. But he actually plays the character in the first Saw movie who, like, you know, saws off his leg or whatever to get out of the room that he's, you know, handcuffed in. But yeah, Princess Bride is such a great, like, classic Child's Tale movie. It basically, the gist is Fred Savage is a little boy, and the entire movie is like his grandfather reading him a story because I think he's sick or something. And you know, it's the tale of the Princess Bride, and yeah, it's just great. if you ever go and watch this, like you'll see and hear things from this movie that you've probably heard just like used in society or whatever. And you'll be like, oh, that's where that came from. If that makes sense.
That does make sense.
Like Inconceivable is from this movie.
I mean, it's tons of things that, I mean, I've heard of this movie many, many times. I might have mistaken it for maybe like a 2000s rom-com.
Oh. No, it's great, man. I mean, it'd be a fun movie even to watch with Erin. She'd probably like it.
She's probably seen it. Yeah. And she'll probably make fun of me if I haven't seen it.
Nice. But yeah, kind of like I made Becca watch the original Friday movie, and like when they got to the Bye Felicia part, she's like, "What? That's funny. That's what that's." I'm like, "Yes, that's what that's from." But yeah, so that was one that I was really trying to decide between, and then the other one was Cloverfield, and we've kind of talked about that on other episodes. But I've like a thing for, much like period pieces, found footage movies. Basically, if you make a found footage movie, there's a very high chance I'm going to like it, and probably an equally high chance that I will enjoy it.
It's fair. Those are hit or miss, but yeah, there's definitely some good ones in there, and Cloverfield's good.
Yeah. So, what were some of the other ones you were trying to decide between?
Interstellar is in there for me.
Classic.
Yeah, it's a classic, big scale, just like Prometheus, lots of deep concepts spinning around in there, and just constant looping.
And Matthew McConaughey, so
Matthew McConaughey,
can't really go wrong there.
Exactly. And I feel like I had another one with him in here, but it disappeared. I must have deleted it. Troy. Huge fan of Troy. I own it like 3 different ways.
Quite often.
Yeah. Scarface. Back to the whole mobster gangster thing.
Makes sense.
I wasn't aware of this until, I don't know, 5 years ago, but not everyone thinks that's a good movie.
Really?
Yeah, apparently there's people that just think it's a bad movie, and screw them. I mean, it's a cult classic. I'll give them that much. But it's good.
Interesting. Were those the movies that you were trying to decide for your third favorite from, or were those from your honorable mention list?
That's all kind of like honorable mention stuff. I mean, they were on my original list, and they just got bumped down to the bottom as we kind of discussed.
Okay. So my honorable mentions, aside from the 3 that I was, or the other 2 that I was trying to decide between, those and Superbad, my actual honorable mentions include 2 Edgar Wright movies. One that you kind of already mentioned, being Shaun of the Dead. Love that movie. It's an amazing take on another tiresome, genre of zombies. And Edgar Wright is just brilliant. Like his. We apologize for the technical difficulties experienced in this part of the show. For some reason, Craig decided to take a break. Anyways, back to it.
Hey, so that's the great thing about this podcast.
That is the great thing about this podcast.
That's what you're saying.
Oh, yeah. Got totally derailed there. Technical difficulties, and it took us a few minutes to figure out what was going on. So I kind of forget what I was in the middle of. Oh, it's coming back. Yeah. The great thing about this podcast is we both. Oh my God, I did it again. I swear. I got to quit talking with my hands. I apologize. But we always, recommend stuff to each other that we haven't seen. So we get fresh, new ideas of stuff to watch. But I also hate it because poor you, your list is growing so immensely and quickly that like I almost want to be like not telling you all these things that you should watch because I feel like it probably gives you anxiety.
Yeah, it's just never ending because one, they make too much new stuff. They need to slow the fuck down. But then there's also there is also a disparity in things I haven't seen that have been out as well because I haven't always watched stuff this avidly as I do now.
Right.
So it's a struggle for real.
Yeah.
That's why I have to watch 5 things at a time and just like keep them in like a large rotation.
Yeah, so if you've ever seen the Instagram pictures of like the setup, the recording setup that has 5 monitors, that's Nick's setup, and when he watches shows, he literally has one on each monitor like at the same time.
Great plug, yes. Yep.
Yes.
I just watch them all simultaneously.
Yeah. But so I have 4 others on my honorable mentions. Those are the only 2 Edgar Wright ones, though I like pretty much any film that he's a part of. I mentioned that I had other Frank Miller graphic novel adaptations on my list. The first being 300, which I would be totally shocked if you haven't seen that. But that's a Frank Miller graphic novel. Oh, what a movie.
I mean, that was probably considered for my list.
So good. A Zack Snyder film as well. So, yeah,
Ew.
love that. Sin City, 2005 movie. I don't know if you've seen that. I kind of brought it up within the last couple weeks.
Yep.
Another Frank Miller graphic novel. It's very, very interesting and very visually cool movie. I don't know. I kind of want to like go back and rewatch it because it's been probably since 2005 since I've seen it. Right. The third would be, I guess technically it's not a movie; it's a limited series. But I think it was a web series. But I bought it on Blu-ray at like Best Buy, and I don't remember if the Blu-ray plays like a movie, like just one solid thing instead of, I think it's 4 episodes in the series, maybe 5. But it's Halo 4 Forward Unto Dawn from back in 2012, and that was super cool.
Seen that. That's back when there was hype of there actually being a movie or a show.
Yeah, that was a really cool little series. I enjoyed that a lot. I'm actually kind of surprised that you've seen that for some reason. I didn't think you would have.
Oh, no, yeah.
Nice. And then lastly, I just thought of this as you were talking about The Departed. You said Matt Damon, and I had talked about Ben Affleck earlier. Affleck. The movie Dogma. You ever seen that one?
That is a great collection of movies from, our boy Kevin Smith.
Yes.
Because we can just do a whole podcast on that because real big fan. Tossing what's his name? Isn't he in that? Yes. Sir.
I believe he plays like a cardinal or a bishop at like the Catholic Church that Ben Affleck and Matt Damon are trying to enter into so they can get back to heaven or whatever.
It's also
It's the church that has the Buddy Jesus statue.
yeah, and he's in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. He's a hitchhiker.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot. Yeah, he does these little cameos in the Kevin Smith movies.
Yeah.
I need to rewatch Dogma because that one's good, but it's maybe the least watched of the Kevin Smith movies.
Yeah.
That I've seen.
It's I think Kevin, I mean, obviously I don't know Kevin Smith, but I feel like he's just a cool dude.
Oh yeah.
And like would be so cool to just hang out with.
Yeah, 100%.
So hey, Kevin Smith, if you're listening, if you want to come out to Ohio, just hang out with me and Nick, that would be super dope.
I feel like he gets that request a lot.
Yeah. But yeah, that pretty much wraps up my honorable mentions. Did you have any others that maybe popped into mind while I was going through mine?
I mean, definitely. And I think as we kind of got into this whole episode, you access the part of my brain that I was trying to get to. Of all these movies that I truly do like, have seen many, many times. But I think somewhere after 2015 and just like the shifting sands of life, they just, I'm not rewatching a lot of things that I typically would rewatch, because like 2005 to 2015, those 10 years, I rewatched a lot of things, especially movies, and that was more so my forte. Whereas now it's a lot more shows and watching new things because there's so much that comes out.
Right.
Which I'm afraid that's becoming a lost thing, right? Because people used to have, VHS, DVDs sitting on their shelves and they would watch those because they liked them.
Yeah. Actually, Becca makes fun of me because I often frequent the exchange and buy Blu-rays. And
nice.
almost always it's movies that I've already seen. But I just like, I have a collection of Blu-rays, right. And she's like, why do you even have those?
Hold on. Pause. You can tell her that she buys books
I know.
she never reads, and she puts them on backwards on the shelf.
Yes. And do I need to remind you that we have like 800 pillows in our house that I'm not allowed to use?
Hey, I mean, the pillows is one thing, but the backwards books that aren't even, like, she doesn't even know what they say, I'm pretty sure, because they're backwards. You can't see the bind. Anyways, yeah. People, you're allowed to buy some Blu-rays at the exchange because that's just a cool place. One.
Yeah. But like I used to have a small bookshelf in my office area where my computer is and the desk and everything. But since I had to upgrade to a larger desk to accommodate working from home and stuff, there sadly is no longer room for my tiny bookshelf. So in our attempt to consolidate all my junk, she's like, why don't you just put all of these DVDs in this like CD binder? And I was like, because
that sounds terrible.
Like the cases, it's like a collection. Like,
no, yeah, the cases are like, so when I bought like DVDs and Blu-rays, I would get so angry at these stupid stickers that did not peel off.
Yes.
Like livid, like unfathomably angry. Like there's things you should get angry at and things you shouldn't. That's definitely in the list of things I shouldn't, but I get livid.
It's justifiable. Especially like I used to buy a lot of used PlayStation games, and I always loved when I would grab one and you could tell that it was very used because there was like 15 price tags on it.
Yeah.
Like they just kept putting a new one over every time it got traded in.
Yeah. So yeah, and kind of like the shelf thing, like in and around my PlayStation, I have my PlayStation games, which are basically Blu-ray cases, and then I have my Blu-rays. But in a box now, like stored away, are all my DVDs. Because they just don't make the cut anymore. Maybe someday. But yeah, I do miss collecting them.
Yeah, I like going to the exchange for that because they don't have to be new for me,
Yeah, right.
And
Because
you
they're
can
like $20-$30. They just
right,
hose you down at Best Buy for that crap.
but you can always go in there and find some really good deals on some really cool older movies that you probably liked that nobody else did. Like
I
I've
need to go there
snagged,
more.
yeah, I've picked up like Blu-rays for like anywhere from like 250 to like $5 to like $10. Like I generally don't spend more than $10 on a movie. But uh lately I've been picking up like some old school movies on Blu-ray. Like
Nice.
I think the last one I got was Labyrinth, which I don't know if you've ever seen that, but that's like an old David Bowie movie. I don't even remember when it was, but I remember watching it when I was a small child. Labyrinth. Let's see. 1986. But it's like super weird. Let me read the description here for you. Teenage Sarah journeys through a maze to recover her baby brother from a goblin king. Also has David Bowie in it.
Yeah, I've seen parts of it, and I think I've seen all like the notable pop culture parts of it.
Yeah.
And I know that sticks with a lot of people. It's just like a classic to them as children, whatever. But every time I see it, I just think like, I mean, my brain's a little twisted, but my brain's not twisted like that. Like that's just weird.
Yeah.
Like
It's a Jim Henson movie.
yeah,
The
that dude's weird
Muppets.
too.
I know,
Yeah,
right? But yeah,
that's
like I've been buying, like going and picking up old movies like that either I watched a lot as a child but haven't seen since,
yeah,
or movies that for some reason I like missed out on, like The Goonies.
right. And
Pick
that's
that
good
up on
stuff to
Blu-ray for
have.
like $10.
That's good stuff to have in the the eventuality of the apocalypse and
Right.
everything. As long as you got a Blu-ray player, some electricity, and a TV,
Yeah.
you'll be good.
I kind of do want to go back and like rewatch all these old ones. Like let's see, another one from my childhood, The Never Ending Story. Did you ever see that one?
Yeah, I would say I've seen enough of it in my
Oh,
mind. Once again, I don't think that's something I've sat down. There's some things I just blatantly ignore just because they're maybe too popular. I don't know.
I loved that movie. And then like I went and thought I bought The Never Ending Story, but I wasn't paying attention and I actually bought the sequel and tried to show it to Becca because I was like, this was the most amazing movie when I was a kid. And then I popped that in and I was like, oh, what is this garbage? Like it was so bad. And then she's
Yeah.
like, you have horrible taste. And I was like, no, I promise. I swear this isn't the movie I was trying to show you. Please don't judge me.
And
But
it's probably the equivalent of telling someone Wizard of Oz is your favorite movie, but you picked like the Wizard of Oz 2 or one of the like sequels to it.
it's like
And
it's like accidentally making somebody watch The Happening.
whoops. I've seen that more than once because I like to remind myself just where that falls in the whole in the world of film.
Oh, jeez. I can't believe you made yourself watch that more than one time.
I think it's been like a total of I might have seen it 3 times.
Oh my gosh. Yes, but I definitely recommend beefing up your Blu-ray collection.
Nope. Save those dollars.
But 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 I gotta be able to tell Becca I'm not the only one.
You're not. I'm just not the other one.
Rip. So
Rip.
apparently I'm looking for a new friend who also enjoys Blu-ray collecting. So
Good luck.
feel free to hit us up. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got. I've been kind of wanting to talk more about movies. Not that there's anything wrong with shows. I actually love shows and have been watching shows way more than movies over the last probably year or two. But I also love movies, and yeah, so this was kind of fun to, even though we didn't go like too deep into any particular movie, just kind of getting to pick a list of my favorite 3 was pretty fun.
Yeah, definitely. It
So
was
Yeah. Would you maybe be interested in, like, I don't know, picking a movie one time and just like going deep on it and just kind of like doing a review?
Yeah, just shred it.
Yeah, I think that'd be super fun. Um, yeah, so you got any closing remarks?
No, sir, we're gonna shut this one down
Shut it
hard.
down.
Just hard stop.
Yeah, because Craig's already done. He's actually kind of mad that we brought him back. So
That shithead.
yeah, so thank you for listening to another episode. Hope you enjoyed it. If you, I think it'd be interesting to hear, maybe some of your favorite movies, listeners. So feel free to leave some comments and let us know. And if you haven't seen any of the movies that we talked about, go watch them as soon as you can because they're all amazing. Yeah, so if you haven't already, check us out on our social media channels. We're on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Showboys Podcast. And if you didn't know, we also upload our episodes on YouTube. So search us on YouTube and please subscribe and follow us there. We're trying to hit 100 subscribers so we could have a fancy custom URL to make it super easy for people to find us. So it's free, it's easy. You just click the big red button and then you get notifications every time we post something. So you'll always know when new content is being put out. So yeah, I guess music?
Do the music. Hard stop. Showboys out.
Bye, Craig.
Later, Craig. Come back whenever you feel like it, because can't make you do anything apparently.
Craig, welcome back. Thank you so much. We missed you last week.
So fantastic to have you back in the podcast, doing all the recording.
Yes. Did you bring Cody with you by chance?